I'd been shot, beaten, mauled, and broken. In these worlds, we're taught that health is just a button press, a magic potion, a soda from a vending machine. What if you were really dying and went searching for real help? What if you go searching for an actual doctor? I went searching for an answer, and what I discovered will shock you. My story began where you probably least expected it, Bulworth Academy. See, this place was dangerous. There wasn't a day where I didn't have to stick up for myself, which is of course why I went here first. Like any other day, I unfortunately had to go to school, and of course I couldn't even make it to the steps without getting myself into an altercation, which I was somehow able to get myself away from, but I really had to go to class. Once I was inside though, the bullying immediately started. This guy was spraying me in the face with spray paint. There was literally nothing I could do. I couldn't even see at this point. Thankfully, I was able to defend myself successfully as I ran away as fast as I could. From the fight this morning and the spray paint in my eyes, I desperately needed help. It felt like my face was burning. I had to find the school nurse, which thankfully wasn't hard to find. I was finally saved. I made it to the school infirmary. Except wait, was it locked? I couldn't get in. There was no one here. The whole place looked abandoned, and apparently I was out of luck. I would have to heal on my own. Later on that day, I found myself getting into even more trouble. I was starting to feel pretty weak, and after school I found myself getting beat up once again, except this time one of the bullies picked me up and slammed me onto the ground at full force. I was knocked out. I woke up confused, but feeling a lot better. Where was I? Turns out I was outside of the infirmary. They had actually helped me. I had no memory of this, but apparently the school nurses did help here, but only if you were knocked out cold. Of course, what do you know? Minutes later, I was in another fight. This time I was able to fight back, and I knocked the bully out. I still took some big hits though, so I needed to recover. I heard a lot of positive things about this vending machine though. I took out $1 and bought a drink, and what do you know? It filled up my health. I was back to 100%, and I sure felt amazing. I couldn't believe this was the secret, a soda to solve it all. Every time I got hurt, all I needed to do was just drink one of these, so I decided to test this out. I created chaos, making lots of people mad at me in the process. That was my exact plan though, as I was also taking some hits. After that, I finished these guys off, and I made sure they would not mess with me anymore. Now it was time for the real test though, the soda. And just like last time, it got me feeling perfect. Soda was the true medical answer in bullying. This place was a joke. The cure for everything was a can of soda. My quest for a real medical system had to continue, which brought me to the old Wild West. This was a world of freedom compared to high school, except that came with its own consequences. This place was dangerous. If I was ever in need of a good medical system, it would be here. Like usual, I was tending to my horse when all of a sudden I was attacked by a wolf. I immediately pulled out my gun and started shooting at it, except it had a whole pack with him. No matter how many times I shot, I was just getting attacked from all angles. At this point, there was 3 on me and I had nothing I could do. I could feel my life starting to slip away slowly as they continued to attack me, and eventually one tackled me to the ground. I woke up in a daze. I think the wolves had left me alone. Maybe they thought I was dead or something, and I sure felt pretty close to it. I knew I had to find help fast, so I used all of my strength to get back to my horse, where I set off for a doctor. Eventually I made it. I knew Saint Denis was sure to have something. This was the biggest city in the country. There had to be a solid doctor here. And eventually I found one. I was so grateful, because I was holding on for dear life. Dr. Joseph R. Barnes could be my savior. I walked up to the entrance, but it was locked. I was so screwed. The place was closed. I decided to take a quick look inside, and who did I see? Was that the doctor? At this point though, I could barely stand. I only had one option, and that was to wait until the morning. Since I felt on the brink of death though, I decided a hotel was my only option for the night. I ended up booking a very nice one to wait for the morning. I woke up very early to hopefully get some treatment right away. I made it to the office just in time for the opening, but the door was locked again. I did not know what was going on. It turns out that I was trying the wrong entrance all along though. I still wonder why this guy didn't let me in yesterday. When I got in, I was pretty shocked though. The doctor informed me that he only sold goods here. He would not perform any services one-on-one with me. All he had was this stupid catalog. Reluctantly, I checked it out as I was in desperate need of anything. He sold something called a potent health cure, potent snake oil, and other things. He recommended I purchase the regular health cure, which I gave into, and I drank it right away. To my shock, I felt completely better. This guy was magical or something. The cure for everything was in this catalog. Whether it's miracle tonics or the assortment of everything else he sold here, this was more of a storefront, less of a doctor's office, but I guess it did the job. Now in this world, the year was 1907, but in no time I found myself in the year 1914, and surely the healthcare system would improve in 7 years, right? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Of course, out here, I was immediately getting myself into some trouble. I had already been hit multiple times trying to break my way into this fortress. I found myself trying to climb up it next though, as I was not giving up. That plan immediately fell through though, as I was shot multiple times, leaving me nearly dead. I awoke later, very confused and not knowing where I was at. I was feeling in rough condition. I had been shot so many times. I desperately needed to find help and fast. Thankfully, the nearest town, Armadillo, was not far away at all, and I knew there was a doctor here, which was perfect. I headed on in, feeling hopeful, only to discover a shell of what I expected. This place was bare bones. I still went to talk to the doctor though, but he only sold 3 things. This was more of a store if anything. The first was medicine. That would completely restore my health, so he said. The second was chewing tobacco. That's right, a doctor selling tobacco. And the third was an apple. Wow, what a doctor this was. He recommended me to buy the medicine, which I did, and then also to get some rest on his bed. After taking the medicine, he told me I was completely good, and I will admit, I felt a lot better. I was genuinely shocked. I ended up buying a couple more of the medicines, because I was going to test this out. Since I was feeling great now, I decided to take on a bounty. This would be my real test to see if the medicine worked, and I was off feeling confident now. I immediately stumbled onto their hideout getting shot multiple times. This was the perfect time to use my medicine. And what do you know, I was feeling a lot better, ready to fight again. I wasn't so worried to get hit now, because I knew I had a backup option, and once everyone was cleared, I popped one again. Somehow it made me feel completely better, and I had successfully finished the bounty job, killing the man in the process, where I finally returned to town and got my reward. So just like in Bully with the soda, and Red Dead Redemption 2 with the health cure, Red Dead Redemption 1 was about the same. There was one magic potion to solve it all, with barely a healthcare system intact. Apparently that was good enough around here though. So let's see how far the healthcare system progressed in nearly a century of time. In this world, I found myself at the bar, feeling a little groggy to be honest. I was barely able to walk myself out of there, yet for some reason my brain still thought it was a good idea to hop in my truck. Well, I guess it was time to have some fun. I was ready to hit the roads, making sure to tear up every intersection, because absolutely nothing could stop me, except maybe the part where I hit a car head on, and he was clearly not having it. It was fight time, except I was too out of it to do anything good, and clearly this was the wrong guy to mess with. He had a whole gang with him. I woke up, coming out of the hospital, and $5,000 drained from my bank account. I had no clue how I got here, but clearly my life was saved. I was lucky to be alive right now. I decided to take a look around the place. The emergency area looked abandoned, and no matter where I went, every door here was locked. So how did I end up in this place? I then had a crazy idea. Without thinking, I jumped off the ledge. And where do you think I ended up? Right back at the entrance of the hospital, with $5,000 taken from my account. So now what happens when you try and reach the healthcare system a different way? Once again, I found myself itching for a joyride. This time, of course, I wanted a motorcycle, and what better way to get one than to steal one? And that was definitely the move. Except now I had the cops on me, and being stressed, I accidentally took a lady out. She was gonna be the one to need the healthcare system, not me. I continued at a high pace to try and get away, and it seemed to be working well. I had officially gotten away. I was finally free to ride, until I wasn't. I picked myself up off the ground. That really hurt. I literally had flipped multiple times onto the concrete. Even the bike looked like it was in terrible condition. My adrenaline was finally starting to wear off as well, and I finally realized I was truly injured. I couldn't even walk normal. I needed to find the hospital and fast, where thankfully I was close enough to walk. Since I was in a police chase, I wanted to avoid calling the authorities. I figured I'd be fine just walking in. I made my way over to the entrance, which was locked. The whole place looked abandoned. There was no lights on inside. The only thing I could find was a first aid kit on the wall. Was this really their substitute for emergency care? Also, out of all places, why was this locked? Even the other side was, and once again, all they had was a first aid kit on the wall. I had one last idea though. Since I was in desperate need, I would call an ambulance.
Thank you.
This was sure to work, right? And since I was so close to the hospital already, hopefully they would be here fast. And thankfully they were. The ambulance pulled up right in front of me, and I expected some people to come out. But no, they were driving away. What in the world were they doing? They were just gonna leave me on the side of the road? I used all my strength to get back up closer to them, but yet they still just drove away, ignoring my cries for help. So now here I was, in the middle of the road, having been failed by the medical system in GTA. I couldn't believe this. I was gonna die here. So apparently in this world, the healthcare system only treats you when you're dead enough to be charged at a premium price. That's the sad reality of GTA 5's healthcare system. They only want you if you're barely alive. They would not accept me even at my lowest point. I had to be classified as dead first. So what happens now to the healthcare system nearly another century in the future? Welcome to the year 2077. Technology has never been this advanced. You expect that a world-class healthcare system came with that, right? Well, let's find out. Like every day, I was riding my motorcycle, just cruising through the city, obviously not caring for any speed limits or traffic laws. Of course, I practiced my wheelies too. I continued riding, but by pure accident, I ran this guy over, and it happened to be right in front of the cops as well. They were now shooting at me on sight. I had been dealt terrible luck, but I knew what I had to do. I was not scared walking into this fight, because in the future, I had a special tool, and that was called the bounce back. And all I had to do was wait for it to regenerate. Even with the bounce back though, I was getting overwhelmed, so I fled the scene, only to be spotted seconds later. Good thing my bounce back had regenerated and I was able to use it. I still had to lay low though, because I was not off the hook yet. I could hear the police scanners as they looked for me, but thankfully I had completely lost them. The booster wasn't enough though. I still felt like I needed to check out a hospital. And surely in the year 2077, I'd be able to access one, right? And as soon as I got there, I got hit by a car. Well, I guess it couldn't have happened in a better spot, but that kinda hurt. Thankfully, I had made it to the med center, which was one of the largest hospitals in Night City. I knew I was sure to find some help here. First things first, I would try the ground entrance, what I assumed was the emergency section. Except as you can guess, the door was locked. I couldn't believe this. Was this not the main entrance? I found some people that looked like doctors just standing outside of the building, so I knew I was in the right place. I even asked them for some help, but they said nothing that would help me. I even found a receptionist lady next and asked her if I could schedule an appointment. She said they were completely booked and to stop talking to her. I noticed her do the same for another person who was desperately pleading for some help. The whole inside of the building looked operational too. I even took a good peek in. I then noticed a doctor just chilling outside. Of course he was smoking a cigarette too. Overall, I just felt so betrayed by the system. See, here in Night City, only the rich qualify for a service known as the trauma team. These people swoop in and save you at a single call. Of course, I didn't qualify for that. That left me basically with no healthcare in the traditional sense, except since it was the future here. I had some other ideas up my sleeve to explore. The first on my list was to check out the pharmaceutical store. I figured they'd probably have some top-notch items for me to buy. And things were looking good when I first walked in. I decided to ask the lady what they sold, and apparently she was a bioengineer. So then I asked to see what they sold. The first thing they offered was something called a capacity booster. It was used to increase carrying capacity by 50%. The second item was a stamina booster. This would help me regain my stamina 20% faster. They also had some creatine in the back, and an assortment of pills. I was finally starting to see what the future was capable of. These were some solid choices. I left because I had one more amazing spot to check out. This was going to be the most advanced thing yet. Welcome to a Ripper Doc's office. This is the pinnacle of the future here. These guys are medical technicians that install cyberware into humans. These guys are true professionals and easily offer the best medical service in Night City. So I decided to check for myself what he had to offer. Right away he showed me everything I could get. You could upgrade your frontal cortex, your arms, your skeleton, your nervous system, basically everything on your body. For example, in your skeleton, you could get upgrades that provide more armor, which in turn will stop you from getting injured. That was the same thing with other places. Upgrading your armor was key. The Ripper Doc truly provided a solution for it all. This outshined any medical procedures I had seen in the past, almost making the current healthcare system obsolete in this world. Why would you need anything else if you could max out your body? That's why this place was so revolutionary. I had finally found the best medical system out there. So my search was over. I had went through 5 different worlds looking for a doctor, and I truly never found one. What I did find was a whole bunch of locked hospital doors, a bunch of healing potions, and finally some technology. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching all the way through.